Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. My name, of course, is Jordan, and I am one of the co-owners of Analog Stick Gaming. But to my right, as always, we have the founder himself, Jeff, who has moved things around in his setup today. How are you, Jeff?
Not too bad. Just moved it around so my dog has more access to me and stuff because I was kind of closed off. But
Good, good.
yeah, and then this
You,
annoying light.
it makes you look a bit like an angel, so
There we go.
you've got that hero lighting in the background, Jeff. That's what it is. You're
I'm an
now in
NPC just waiting for you to approach me for a quest. I need 3 logs. Meanwhile, I have like a giant freaking log pile in the background.
yeah.
I need 3 logs. I'm out of
That
wood.
is such a iconic quest. That one.
Go kill the
But
rest in my basement.
But yeah, we decided, of course, that today we are going to do our big 2025 preview, where we're going to talk about some of the games that are coming out and that sort of thing. We have a few of them in our background today that Jeff has kindly put together for us. Obviously, we have our logo blocking out Mr. Doom Guy there.
Yeah, but you know who he is. Plus, he's
Yeah.
branded now. He's just like NASCAR. He's got logos all over him.
But before that, we do have quite a bit of news to actually go through, and one sort of smaller showcase, well, it might be bigger than we think, has also been announced since we last recorded. So why don't we get to the news, Jeff?
Sure, I'll jump right in here. Marvel Rivals has broken its all-time concurrent player record following the release of its first season of content. The hero shooter released its first season yesterday, or a few days ago, as a part of this news. This saw 6,444,269 players play the game concurrently, launching it to number 14 in Steam's all-time highest concurrent player counts. This is higher than other popular titles like Apex Legends, Path of Exile 2, Helldivers 2, and GTA 5. Marvel Rivals Season 1 Eternal Night Falls is a vampire-themed season that introduces new characters, the Fantastic Four, who will battle against the forces of Dracula. Marvel Rivals is a free-to-play 6v6 team-based shooter played from a third-person perspective. It's developed by a new internal team at NetEase, which has said it's comprised of global talent who has previously worked on the hit franchises such as Call of Duty and Battlefield. I have been playing a ton of this season. I've actually got all of the season content done as of what's been released. I'm working through the season pass right now. They've dropped Sue Storm and Reed Richards. They're going to be dropping Johnny Storm and The Thing, I think, at the end of this month. I'm really decent as Reed. I wasn't expecting to really like him, and I don't know if this is true. I'd have to double check, but I think this is like the first time Reed's been playable in a non-Fantastic Four game.
Wow, okay.
I don't know if he's been in the Ultimate Alliance games because
I'm
like
not
the
sure.
stretchy nature of how he kind of works. Like
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
he can like fire off his fists and stuff, and they launch out like like you would expect.
Nice.
He can
Well,
also kind of like buff his body up and reflect bullets. It's pretty neat.
I definitely want to play some more Marvel Rivals, and now that I have my new, more powerful GPU, maybe today would be a good time to test that out. So maybe after we've recorded this podcast at some point later today, Jeff, we can
Yeah.
play some of that.
Yeah, I've been working on my dailies. I still have some assists to do, even though I'm pretty sure I was getting assists and they weren't labeling. But
That's weird.
Yeah, Reed is pretty neat. He's almost kind of like a tank because like he can like turn himself kind of into the Hulk, where he's kind of like big and stuff, and they do some pretty decent stuff. And the team up skills he's got with Sue kind of like grant some armor and some healing stuff like that. Sue can do a lot of her invisible stuff, including like a double jump, which makes her really nimble and it turns her invisible as she jumps. And what's really neat too is like even like last season and stuff, like there is a story mode, but it's kind of like you read it. Like you basically, as you're going through the story stuff, you're unlocking these comic pages and then they go into a comic and then you can read what's going on there. And the rumor is that Blade's going to be at the beginning of the next season. And there was a data mine that was done, and we're getting like Jean Grey, we're getting Emma Frost. But I'm super excited for Angela, which was a character originally created by Neil Gaiman for Spawn. And then there were some licensing issues or something, and he took that character to Marvel, and it became kind of like Thor's sister or something like that. And so, yeah, I'm super excited if Angela is actually accurate, because all this stuff's been data mined. So, but
That would be cool.
Marvel Rivals has been continued to be doing the kind of numbers that I think that every other hero shooter has wished it's done in the wake of
Yes.
like what Overwatch 2 is. And like, I don't like
Especially
Overwatch.
Concord, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't like Overwatch really at all. I don't find that game terribly fun. I think it's the first person nature. I think it's like whatever. But Marvel Rivals, I absolutely love. It could be the characters pulling me in as well too, seeing
Yeah.
all that stuff happening. But it's super fun.
I mean, those characters definitely help. I would say that because for me, I wouldn't be playing this game. I probably wouldn't have even tried this game without those characters.
Yeah.
However, having played it, it's just a very good game. And yes,
It's well put together, and it is an like our friend Jonathan, he was playing for the first time last night, and he's like, holy shit, this is just an Overwatch clone. I'm like, well, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you kind of borrow from the best and kind of
yeah,
innovate later on.
yeah. And there is definitely some innovation in the game, but we can't spend all day talking about Marvel Rivals as much as we'd
We
like to.
can, let's do it. 15 more minutes, let's go.
So, what is next up on our news today, Jeff?
Yeah, so Stellar Blade Studio Shift Up has gifted all of its employees a PlayStation 5 Pro and an end-of-year bonus following the success of the PS5 action game. The consoles were presented to Shift Up around 300 employees at a company event held in Seoul on Monday. Each employee will receive a bonus of 5 million won, which is about 3,400 USD, it said. Speaking to the South Korean publisher Naver, a Shift Up representative said the bonuses were intended to encourage the existing talent at the company. This is awesome. Like, I mean, you get a PlayStation 4 Pro, which is about $1,000 or whatever, plus a $3,500 bonus. Like, that's, we're seeing some companies basically laying off its staff because they can't make enough money. And then meanwhile, Shift Up is like, yeah, hey, yeah, our game did really, really good. So here's a bonus.
Yeah. And rewarding success, you know, it will it will weirdly subconsciously make people work harder because we're just as human beings we're wired in a way which is we want to have the reward for the things that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're working a job, yes, you're getting paid each month, but you don't necessarily get that satisfaction of feeling rewarded. And I know for game devs, their reward often is the game comes out, people like it, and lots of people play it, right?
Yeah.
That gives them the vindication. But for them to be then rewarded by their company, as the company sort of saying, yeah, you did a really good job, and we made something that's very successful, so here's a little bit extra for you, I think is a great move, really.
Yeah, I mean that game's still, probably going to be coming to PC, so that's going to have a lot more money come in. And then the majority of the team is probably working on either a follow up or
Yeah.
just a new game, because you got to keep that team busy.
And I will say that as someone who does now mostly play on PC, if this game comes to PC at some point, which I expect it will, I will definitely be taking a look at it when it comes to PC because I think that PC will help this game to shine even more than it already has. I mean,
Well, I mean, God, the amount of nude mods that are going to like exist within this game is going to be staggering. Because I mean, like
true.
that, this is the type of game that people were putting new mods on Resident Evil to have Lady Demetresque basically like stalking you in the nude. So there's like that game is going to do so incredibly well, especially like if they, change the character model to like add like Dante in or something like that. Like there's,
Yeah.
there's going to be,
Yeah, there's
mods and
really
stuff like
cool
that.
things they can do with it, and I'm glad the game is successful, and I'm glad that the company is rewarding the development team for that, because especially like with the PS5 Pros, those people that have made that game can now play the best available version of that game, so that's nice for all of them. But we do have more news to get to, so what
We
is up
do.
next?
So Microsoft is reportedly planning to bring even more of its key franchises to PlayStation 5 this year. On Friday, it was claimed by a noted insider that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and Halo the Master Chief Collection are both being planned for release on Sony's console, as part of Microsoft's new strategy of releasing more games on rival platforms. Now, a new report from Windows Central collaborates those claims with its own sources and reports that further franchises are also being planned for PlayStation 5 by the end of 2025. According to the publication, Hellblade 2, Age of Mythology, and Gears of War 1 Ultimate Edition are all slated for release on PlayStation 5 this year. Um, so that is a lot of like Xbox games kind of like, again, coming to other platforms because I mean, hey,
Hmm.
it's guaranteed money. Like they're not part of a subscription service or anything like that, so it's just a mass amount of revenue.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find so funny about this as well too is these games are being just absolutely gobbled up by PlayStation gamers that have been bashing Xbox for the longest time. Sea of Thieves did extremely good, and this is the
Yes.
same like a group of people that are like Xbox doesn't have any games. Oh, Sea of
Mhm.
Thieves is out, and like like
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing. And
I think I think that's what I find funny about it is that it shows that this whole situation we've had going for the last decade basically was just people, for lack of a better term, people were talking out of their asses, essentially,
pretty much.
because they actually did want to play these games. The problem was they just didn't want to play them on an Xbox.
And the thing that's even funnier is like they don't want to support Xbox, but here's the thing. You buy a console, all right, and Xbox is not making that much money on the consoles. Like they're probably making 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. Who knows? But they're making a shit ton of money. They're making that much money pretty much on the games. So like if anything, if you're buying games on PlayStation 5 that are Xbox games, you're supporting Xbox in a way that's even more prevalent.
Yeah, they're
Um,
actually, weirdly, they're making more money from you, most likely, if you're buying these games on PlayStation, than they would if you buy the console and then buy these games.
yeah.
Because, if you buy the console, the likelihood is if you have the console, you're probably going to do the smart move and have Game Pass. Whereas at the moment, if you're on PlayStation, you have no option to
No,
have Game
you're
Pass.
paying 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks for Sea of
Yeah.
Thieves or whatever, and then the same
I
amount
do
for all those
think,
games.
and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's related. I do think that as more stuff comes to PlayStation from the Xbox studios, and as Xbox essentially become almost more PC like, where they do put their stuff everywhere, but they still have their own hardware as well, we could see a situation where you get almost like a first party only version of Game Pass available on PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever do that because I think that with PlayStation, it's guaranteed rev for the full price of the title, and I think
That's true.
they'll leave the subscription stuff for Xbox to be a more attractive model of bringing you in to get the console.
Yeah, because at that point is going to be their main selling point, right? Of like your reason to get this console is
Yeah,
because you
I
can
don't.
then
Yeah,
use our subscription.
I don't think Game Pass will ever come to that. They
Interesting.
will leave the
Interesting.
subscription stuff strictly just for the.
Yeah. We are losing you a little bit here, Jeff, with your
Xbox,
connection, by the
and you're
way.
getting a lot more money.
But yes, I agree. It's a strange one because you know they could go a million ways with this situation, and I think them bringing more games to PlayStation is a good thing. I saw a poll on social media the other day, which is like is this a good thing or a bad thing? And it was talking specifically about Master Chief Collection. And I think that the person who put up this poll expected most people to say it was a bad thing. And then it was actually like 60% of people who voted said it was a good thing because it's video games and more people playing video games is
Yeah.
never a bad thing.
And see, a lot of these games are also going to be coming to like the Switch 2 as well, because it's going to be a piece of hardware that's going to be able
And
to
what
run.
I will say is, I think that the problem right now, and this is something that Xbox needs to fix with their messaging, is that everything we're hearing, even with these rumors of them bringing more games to PlayStation and things like that, everything we're hearing still suggests that there are going to be, at the very least, timed exclusives for the Xbox platform from the Xbox studios, and that most things will not be day one. So you are still going to get some value from the ecosystem, right? Because realistically, and we've had this discussion before, Jeff, but if a game is 6 months exclusive on a platform, people who want to play that game are not going to wait 6 months. I wouldn't expect.
I think
you
the
know?
PC market would, just because they don't want to buy a console and stuff like that. That's why a lot of people, I think that's why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales were not as high as Square Enix were expecting, is because the PC audience that would have bought it on PlayStation
Yeah.
are just like, I'm just going to wait for the better
But
version.
but I also think that's because the PC audience know that that game was coming to
Yes.
PC, right?
Yeah.
So that's
So I think
that's the
that's
difference
why.
as well.
And I mean, like,
Yeah.
that actually translates into our next story. And
Yeah,
that
what is
is
it?
PlayStation exclusive Final Fantasy games will soon be announced for Xbox and Nintendo platforms, it's claimed. That's according to the previously reliable Nate the Hate podcast, which claims that Square Enix could share the news as soon as the Xbox Developer Direct live stream later this month. According to the podcast sources, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which has long been available for PS4, PS5, and PC, will finally be released for Xbox in 2025, followed by its sequel, Rebirth, in 2026. Both of these titles will also be released for the Nintendo Switch 2, it's claimed. According to Nate the Hate podcast, a PlayStation 5 exclusive Final Fantasy XVI could also be released for Xbox later this year. A PC port was already announced last month and will release on January 23rd, the same day as the Xbox Developer Direct. The game that's going to be announced finally is Final Fantasy 16. They said finally Final Fantasy 16 will be announced for Xbox platform, and I suspect it's going to be very similar to what we had with Death Stranding. I think it will be a shadow drop, playable right away following the presentation, with both expansions and hopefully at somewhat of a discount. I mean, that's a convenient day to kind of
Yeah.
have that. Um,
Yeah, and I mean we'll talk more about that later on and
yeah,
where it might
but I
possibly
mean,
show up.
remake and Rebirth coming out. I mean, it kind of sucks that Rebirth is going to be a year out.
However, I actually think that's smart because do you know why I think they're doing it like that? Because I think what they'll do is that Remake will come this year to Xbox,
Yeah,
Rebirth will be next year, and then the following year will be the release of the third part of the trilogy that we know we're getting for this Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, and it will release everywhere day one. And there will be
yeah,
no exclusive because we know that Square have said publicly they are moving away from platform exclusivity going forward.
yeah, because it's just
So
not enough money essentially for them coming in.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, and especially if those games come to Switch 2, I mean, it'd be interesting for Rebirth.
yes,
Because
yeah.
I don't think was Rebirth on PS4.
I'm not sure actually. That's a
I
good
don't think
point.
it
I'm
was,
not
because I
sure
think
if
that
it
was a
was.
huge part of the audience of why it didn't get the sales. Because Remake
Yeah.
had a ton of sales because it was on both.
And
Um,
we're expecting the Switch 2 to be around PS4 performance. But we'll know more about the Switch 2 soon, I would imagine, because they did say that by the end of the financial year they will be
oh god,
revealing
and
it.
there's so many leaks. Like, the logo has leaked and it just says Nintendo Switch 2. The whole console pretty much has leaked. The Joy Cons
Yeah.
have leaked. Apparently, you can turn them on the side and use them as a mouse.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of leaks going on right now. I mean, CES, the accessory maker Genki their lawyers approached them at CES. But see, Genki didn't sign any NDAs or anything like that, so they can just do whatever the fuck they want. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy. It's really really crazy. But we're in for a good year of gaming, which we will speak more about later on. But we mentioned it briefly just now, so why don't we move on to the news of the Xbox Direct that's coming up very
yeah.
soon?
All right. So Xbox has confirmed that its next developer direct live stream will take place on Thursday, January 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. According to Microsoft, the direct will include a visit to Compulsion Games in Montreal to learn more about South of Midnight. Also, as well as the Montpellier based Sandfall Interactive for a look at Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and its studios in Richardson, Texas for more information on Doom the Dark Ages. The live stream will also visit a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game, the company said. The developer direct is Xbox's live stream format presented by the game creators themselves, offering in-depth looks at the upcoming titles and who's creating them. So that's an interesting wording, is that it's a new game.
Yeah, brand new game, and we have also had confirmed by Aaron Greenberg on Twitter that it is a completely unannounced game as well. So it's not, so in other words, it's not going to be a port of something. It's not something we already know about. Like, it's not going to be Everwild showing up. It's
Yeah.
going to be literally a brand new thing. I have a couple of predictions about what it might be or whose game it might be, but we'll get to those in a minute because excuse me, because I want to talk about first this format of the Dev Direct. I actually really like it. I like that they do one early in the year. I think it kicks the year off quite nicely. And in a way, I like that they only do one a year because it makes them feel unique. Whereas I think the PlayStation State of Plays and the Nintendo Directs in the past, there have been so many of them that it's hard to kind of keep a consistent same sort of quality. Whereas with the Dev Direct, they focus on things that are coming the same year, which I think is the right thing to do. You know, they're willing to have third party games in there. We saw Visions of Mana show up last time on the Dev Direct last year.
Yeah.
We do know that based on their wording, everything that's in this show is going to be stuff that's coming to Game Pass. So obviously Claire Obscure,
Yeah, I'm super
Expedition
excited for
33.
that.
That's really cool. I'm excited to see more of that game. I am actually really excited to see more South of Midnight because that looks right up my alley, and the more they show of that game, it looks
Yeah.
really cool.
I'm also hoping that they show off the non-stutter type of version of the game as well too, because
Yeah,
a lot of
because they've
people have
said
been,
that exists, right?
yeah,
So
and a lot of people have said like they can't play it because of the frame rate.
yeah, and I understand from an artistic point of view what they're going for with that,
Yeah, it's
but
the
I
same thing that
do,
they did with the Miles Morales movie,
yeah.
where he moved at a certain frame rate, and then once he became Spider-Man, he moved to the more consistent frame rate.
Yeah. And I do think that, having that is cool, but having an option to turn that off is also nice. And it would be nice for them to show that. I would expect us to get a release date for South of Midnight, if I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah,
for them to be showing it, I'm assuming we'll see a chunk of gameplay, and I would expect a release date. And if I was to guess, that's going to be, sometime sort of any time between the showcase and probably the start of April, because the soundtrack for the game releases in April. We know that already, so
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
All
But
right.
let's talk for a second, Jeff, about
Mhm.
this mystery game,
Yeah.
because have you got any sort of predictions on what it might be or whose game it might be?
I mean, obviously, it's a big title. This isn't going to be an indie game. but I don't know who's really not announced anything. Because like it's hard to say if it's going to be a first party title,
So
or if
my
it's going to be third party.
so my guess would be that it's a first party title, and I have a few sort of thoughts on it. The first one that came to mind was, is it going to be a new Double Fine game? Because it's been a little while for them.
Yeah,
You know, it's been a little while for them. There is a second party title that I think it could be, which is it could be Toys for Bob's new game, because they obviously separated from Microsoft
yeah, but they've
after
only
the
been working on
acquisition.
that for like what, a year and a half, 2 years.
As far as we know, but were they? But because we expect that they are working on a IP that Xbox now owns, there is a chance that they could have been working on it before the acquisition even happened, right?
Yeah, and
So
it's been teased that it's Spyro just because of the purple nature of that tweet that they did.
yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see. But there is an even bigger out there one that I think would make sense for this year. I just don't know if they would have been able to pull it off. Josh Sawyer released Pentiment a few years ago. I believe it
Yeah.
was two and a bit years ago now, or it will be 3 years ago by kind of September this year. I wondered, and this is high speculation from me. I don't think this is going to happen,
Pentiment.
but
It's the sequel.
there's Fallout Season 2 of the TV show coming this year. And we expect a certain location to be very pivotal in Fallout Season 2. So what if we're getting a Fallout New Vegas 2?
Um, I could see it in like 2027.
Interesting. Because I just kind of thought to
Because that's like a
myself,
5 year game to make.
I would have thought so as well. But Obsidian seem to be like wizards, and if they're managing to, based on their current rate of being able to create games, you know, I could see it being possible that they would make a slightly smaller scale Fallout
Yeah, but they got Avowed, and
experience.
then they've also got Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah,
I think that output is just too much to have a Fallout New Vegas.
true. I just, do you know what makes me think it? And I don't know if you've seen the graphic for the showcase, but the Dev Direct graphic, the image they've put for the mystery game is different to the images they've had when they've had a mystery game in the past.
Hmm.
And this image almost makes it look like a television state of emergency sort of announcement, like some sort of broadcast has been interrupted, and it's got, it's got that weird like signal being interrupted type vibe to it. And when I saw that initially, my head went to two places, but one of them is ruled out based on what is being said to us. My head went to Fallout, or it went to, is this going to just be Gears of War E-Day? But then they've said that it's a brand new thing that we don't know about, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see. There is one more game that I think it's possible shows up. Well, two, but one in particular, in my opinion. So we know that People Can Fly, the team behind
Oh yeah, they had an
Outriders.
Xbox game that they were working on, Project Maverick or something.
Yeah, so they've been working on that since Outriders released. Excuse me. But there is another team that is also reportedly working on an Xbox game of some sort, and actually have been quietly for a few years, and that is IOI Interactive, the team behind Hitman. We know they're, of course, working on James Bond as well, but they do now have two development teams.
Mm.
So it makes me wonder, could their long rumored fantasy game Project Dragon, could that be showing up? Because that would be a brand new game in a brand new location.
I wonder if you
Because
could play a dragon that has to disguise themselves and kill random things in the environment. It's just like Hitman, but a dragon.
but what I would say as a
Scale Bound 2.
final thing on this before we move on, is that where they talk about visiting a surprise location for a studio's brand new game, that makes me think the location is somewhere we know, but the game isn't. And that's why my head went to New Vegas 2.
Hmm.
Because that's a known location within video games, and it would be a surprise, but it could also be a studio's brand new game, right? Because what would be a surprise location otherwise? Because if we don't know the location, that's not going to be a surprise location. So it has to be wherever the game is set, in my mind, based on what they've said, has to be somewhere that we know or are at least familiar with, but not expecting to see. So that's going to be really interesting to find out what that is. And we don't have too long to wait, and I'm sure that we will cover it to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, we won't be able to live react because Jeff will be working at that time, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I could always go social media blind and then record as soon as I get home because it's only going to be
Yeah.
like, half hour or something.
True. So we'll figure out something for coverage of that show. We'll do the best that we can do with that. But for now, Jeff, what other news do we have to speak about today?
Yeah, so Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League developer Rocksteady Studios has reportedly been hit with fresh layoffs. That's according to Eurogamer, who has said they heard the news from half a dozen impacted employees. The cuts reportedly took place at the end of last year, impacting some programmers, artists, and QA staff. It was reportedly last September that numerous Rocksteady employees had been made redundant over the past month, including its QA department being more than halved from 33 staff to 15. As the latest title from the studio behind the celebrated Batman Arkham franchise, Suicide Squad was one of the industry's most highly anticipated games, but enthusiasm for it seemingly waned during a protracted development cycle, which included several underwhelming pre-release showings and a backlash to its live service elements. Following several delays, it was released last February to mixed and critical reception and proved to be a commercial failure, with publisher and Rocksteady owner Warner Brothers taking a $200 million loss on the game. The studio confirmed last month that Suicide Squad's current season will be its last. Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League also took most disappointing game at Analog Stick Gaming's Game of the Awards 2024. This isn't surprising. I mean, some of the studio I know has been working on apparently the definitive edition of Hogwarts Legacy, which I'm surprised isn't out yet. But yeah, I mean, this is not a surprise. I would love to see that studio bounce back because the pedigree that studio has is fucking insane. But yeah, Suicide Squad: The Justice League has bombed terribly. I mean, you could pretty much get it for free on Epic Games at one point. I think the game even went down to like $5. So like this essentially is this generation's anthem in regards to a game that came out that was supposed to be high profile and then basically just bombed horrifically.
Yes, yeah, and it's a real shame because that studio is beloved and have made some fantastic games, but as we've discussed before, this was just a situation where it was a studio that was probably forced to make a game that they didn't really want to make in a style that they weren't familiar with, and I'm not surprised, and I hate that we're starting this year talking about layoffs again, because it's just like, I understand that, okay, this is the time of year where layoffs always happen, and, we have heard reports of other studios are going to be doing layoffs and things like that. However, the expectation is, by all accounts, that the amount of layoffs that are expected this year, at least from some of the bigger places like Microsoft, are within the realm of what would be expected in a normal year, and it isn't quite as crazy as what we've seen in previous years. So my hope is that, all the layoff stuff improves. But yeah, I just want to see Rocksteady get back to what they do well, I'm
I
just
just
not
want
sure
them
whether
to
they
like,
can anymore.
yeah, like honestly, if they announce a Batman Beyond game, they're back.
True. That's a good
That'll make
point.
a shit ton of money. Like a futuristic Gotham, like just Batman Beyond, and like you just have like one of the prominent Batman actors that are currently around to
Yeah.
just play Bruce.
My wonder is, do they actually want to do more Batman?
I
Or
think Batman Beyond would be a good take because it is more Batman, but it's completely different Batman. I mean, hell,
that's
you could
true.
even have Michael Keaton play the older Bruce.
That would be cool. That would be really
And then you
cool,
have him come
actually.
on stage at the Game Awards.
Yeah, but at least that one would actually make sense, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, I hope to see. I'm just worried that with the amount of layoffs they've had and with the amount of people that have moved on from that studio as well, I'm not like the two founders of the studio. I forget their names right now, but Sefton Hill and something else. They obviously have started their own studio, and we know that a lot of the Rocksteady staff have gone on to join them, and they actually do have a partnership with Microsoft, funnily enough. So, who knows? Who knows when
Yeah.
they're going to show up?
We've also had a lot of creators leaving to kind of make their own studios, and I know there was one that they've shut down, like just
Yeah.
because of lack of funding. So
Yeah,
it's tough
which
out there.
which is a real shame, because I want to see this industry doing well. I want to see companies like Rocksteady doing well, and I'm hoping that this will be a learning experience for WB where they understand that you have to let studios make what they are familiar with, because every single time we've seen a publisher try and force a studio to make a certain type of game, it's never panned out well. Look at Square Enix forcing Crystal Dynamics to make, Avengers as a live service game. That didn't pan out well. I think that if they were able to make an Avengers game that was a single player game, it probably would have been very good.
Or
Because,
even just standard co-op, because like co-op doesn't necessarily have to be a live service game.
yeah. So it is a shame, and I look forward to whatever Rocksteady does next. But I am concerned that with the amount of people that have left the studio, there's just no way that they can kind of live up to what they've done in the past now. But I hope to be wrong about that. So
Yeah. Alrighty. Sony has confirmed that when The Last of Us Part 2 comes to PC in April, it will require a PSN account to play. The game, which is now available to wishlist on Steam and Epic Games, will be released on April 3rd. It's the latest PC title that require a PlayStation Network account, a decision that's proved controversial in the past. Whether this has been the case for some multiplayer titles, such as the now defunct Concord, the inclusion in strictly single-player titles has previously attracted the ire of players. Other than the requirement of a second account, the fact that PSN is not available in many countries would, in theory, preclude players in many regions from even playing the game. The backlash to the PSN inclusion in Helldivers 2 was such that Sony itself U-turned and removed the requirement, saying that at the time it was learning what was best for PC players. When requirement was added for the PC version of God of War Ragnarok, one player even created a mod which removed the requirement, but it was taken down at the creator's request in case of action from Sony. This is dumb. Like,
yeah,
why? Like, you're literally removing the ability for some players to even play the game.
yeah, it's a weird one. It's a real weird one. It's. I think that there's two ways to solve this. Really, you either have to make your service available in all territories in all places,
Yeah.
and then you can probably get away with you must have an account, or you have to remove that as a requirement and handle it like Xbox did recently with the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle release, where if you play that game on Steam, there is an option to connect your Xbox account and you will also earn Xbox achievements, but
Yeah.
you do not have to do it, right? The advantage of connecting your account in that case was, oh, you'll use the Xbox Cloud system for saves and you'll be able to basically have cross progression between platforms. So there are advantages to it. I understand that, but it being a forced requirement is isn't a problem for me. I don't have an issue with it, but I'm in a territory where it's
Yeah.
available, right? The issue is you are stopping people from playing the game who want to play the game just because of this requirement. And
Yeah.
there are circumstances outside of their control why they cannot have these accounts and cannot therefore fulfill the requirement. You have to find some sort of solution for these people.
Yeah. No, it's stupid. Like, honestly, just have a thing where you can make it optional and they say, hey, you can earn trophies. Here's some digital goods and some bonuses and things like that if you like connect it. And if you don't, you just get the game vanilla as it is.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to throw in a piece of news here because I don't see that you picked it up, Jeff.
Yeah.
So maybe you can find it while I talk about it. But Private Division, we now know who bought Private Division from Take-Two Interactive, and it's quite an interesting one actually because
Yeah. It's that former Annapurna um,
yes,
interactive things and stuff like that.
all the staff that left Annapurna, which is something we covered on the podcast previously,
Yeah.
they have basically found funding to buy Private Division from Take-Two, and they're also going to take all of the Private Division IPs with them as well. So, you know, things like No Rest for the Wicked, which Private Division was handling,
Yeah.
now have a company to actually continue supporting them, which is amazing news. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I mean it's the same kind of thing as like Crafton basically coming in and just buying like Tango Gameworks.
yes, yeah, and I like that. You know, these people who used to work for Annapurna, and we all know they had. You know, we spoke about it at the time, but that team had a knack of finding very good games
Yeah,
and you know supporting them and putting them out. And the fact that they've been able to kind of stick to their convictions, walk away from Annapurna, and then actually pick up Private Division, which was kind of trying to do the same thing anyway. I think you know, in a time when we're talking about so many layoffs and stuff, it's nice to have a story where people have essentially walked away because of upper management issues and they've actually panned out into something that could be very positive for many developers in the industry.
yeah. Alrighty. Um, Ubisoft has decided to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows a further month in order to incorporate more player feedback into the launch game. Shadows, which was previously delayed from last November to February 2025, will now release on March 20th. In a statement, Ubisoft said the additional development time would allow it to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months and help create the best conditions for launch by continuing to engage closely with the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed community. Previously, Ubisoft said it was confident a second delay would not be necessary. In the original postponement, the company announced that it was departing from its traditional season pass model, canceling early access to the title and granting players who pre-ordered the game its first expansion for free. Guillermo, I can never say his name, co-founder and chief executive officer, said, "We are all behind our team's efforts to create the most ambitious Assassin's Creed of the franchise and make the decision to provide an extra month of development to Shadows in order to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months that will enable us to fully deliver on the potential of the game and finish the year on a strong note." Um, I think this could just be PR speaks with the development team going, hey, we just need a couple more weeks.
Kind of. I think there's a few ways of looking at this, so let's break it down. Because there is something else they said alongside this announcement, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute. But I actually think this delay is, let's move away from a very packed February to maximize sales of this video game, because we need this video game to be as successful as possible.
Yeah.
And I do, and I do think, as much as, because I've seen a few people kind of funny covered this news as well, and I actually commented because I disagreed with the way they reacted to this news slightly, where there's a quote in there about how they want to take feedback from the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed audience, right? And the weird thing is, I actually think that people who haven't been paying close attention to Assassin's Creed Shadows are probably misinterpreting what they're saying. Because I think what they're saying is increasingly positive, in the sense that people over the last couple of months, as they have been revealing more information about the actual gameplay of Assassin's Creed Shadows and showing more gameplay and stuff like that, the audience has become more positive towards the game compared to its initial showing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they mean. Maybe that's just me giving them too much credit, but that's the way that I take that quote. The more interesting thing for me, because look, this is a small delay. I know some people were dooming and glooming, like, oh, it's delayed again. It's literally been delayed by like 4 weeks. I don't think you have to worry about this game not coming out. I don't think you have to worry about, it being it basically never seeing the light of day. This video game is going to come out. Excuse me. But one interesting thing for me is that alongside this announcement, they talked about how Ubisoft as a company is bringing in outside analysts to help them figure out their strategic possibilities for the company. And they made it very much sound like maybe they're selling the company, or looking at, a way of getting the best value for the shareholders, I think is how they put it. And right now, Ubisoft shares are down to like $2 per share. So if you want to make some money, there, I'm not a financial person, so take this with a massive grain of salt. But it might be worth looking at that stock, because if this company gets sold, there's a good chance that they get sold for more than that stock is actually worth right now. And they're certainly making it sound like they're either looking for investment from outside, or they're looking for someone to straight up buy the company. And
Yeah, but I think like their condition was that they still are running it.
so that was the original thing we heard about their discussions with Tencent. It sounds like they had discussed with Tencent essentially taking a controlling stake in the company, because they already own part of Ubisoft, of course. And here is Banter to appear finally on our big preview episode. Hello, Banter. Does Banter like Assassin's Creed? I don't know.
Like Assassin's Creed.
But yeah, I think their whole their whole discussion around it was they wanted to sell a controlling stake, but yet they wanted to remain in day-to-day control, which was a really weird situation.
That was, to me, that was just like, hey, we need money, but we don't want to change what we're doing.
Yeah. So I'm going to be interested to see how that continues. I do think it's interesting that they're still aiming to get Assassin's Creed Shadows out in March for a couple of reasons. One, I think that means that the delay probably is, as I said, more about getting away from a very busy February, because just look at the February releases, Jeff. We've got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which recently had some very positive and glowing previews, and that's coming out on February 4th. And then a week later, we have Avowed coming out. And then we have several other games coming out,
Yakuza
such as,
Pirates and then
yeah,
Monster Hunter Wilds. Like Monster Hunter Wild is going to be the biggest release of that month,
yeah,
no question.
absolutely. But that's
That
what I mean.
game's
But
going to
there's
sell like 4.5 million
and
copies
and
within a month.
so if Assassin's Creed was there as well, we'd actually be in a month where there was 5 fairly sizable releases, and that's too many for an individual month. So I think them moving out of there is very, very good, probably for Assassin's Creed, and like probably for Assassin's Creed from a kind of money making perspective, but also an extra 4 weeks for them to work on the game isn't going to make the game worse. It's only going to make it
Yeah,
better.
but I mean, like a month is just, it doesn't seem like a lot of time in order for them to make some grand sweeping changes. Because like that's not a lot of time.
No, I agree, but what it does mean is we're more likely to avoid an Assassin's Creed Unity style of launch. You know, it's
Yeah, but they haven't really had that issue since then.
true, true. It's going to be interesting to see. I have obviously been handling most of the Assassin's Creed coverage over at the Outer Haven, and I will be when the time comes. I'm supposed to be reviewing the game for them, so you can look out for that. And I'm sure that Jeff will be looking to review Assassin's Creed Shadows for us on Analog Stick Gaming as well.
Totally.
So we'll see what happens. But I personally, based on what they've shown in the last sort of month and a half, I am much more positive on what I'm seeing from the game. I do think that delay from November to February initially, that 3 months has helped them to improve what the game was based on when we first saw it. But then I also think what people have to remember is that first showing at SGF was probably an older build of the game. So by the time we were even seeing that, it probably wasn't representative of the game anyway. And I think people can often forget this when video games are shown. But I would imagine that we are going to get a clearer indication over the next sort of month or so of of what we can really expect from Assassin's Creed Shadows, because we're 2 months away from it at this point because of this delay. And I do wish them all the best because people have wanted Assassin's Creed in feudal Japan for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and the probably the co-op mode as well too. That hopefully should be coming out for it. They're
Yes,
making all the right moves with this
absolutely.
game, obviously.
And
So
and also the fact that they're finally willing to delay a game, that's something we should actually celebrate, because some publishers will not delay a game because they just want to make money. We've seen it
yeah,
before. What is a really good example, Jeff, of a game that the developers told the people they needed more time and then it didn't get delayed and it was
yeah,
a
Cyberpunk.
mess? Precisely. And we don't ever want that sort of situation again. So I'm happy that they seem to a certain extent, Ubisoft seem to actually be listening to the audience and taking the feedback. Yes, Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't going to see these sweeping changes that some people might like to see, but also some of the changes people want to see are crazy and unneeded, right? Like, there are some people that don't want Yasuke in this video game. And it's like, it's a video game. Please just move on with your life,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I wish them all the best. But yes, let's continue with our episode here today.
All right, our last news of the day is one of the weirdest gaming lists I think I've ever seen in regards to like what's on the list. And this is Rolling Stone's the 50 greatest video games of all time. Have you seen this list?
No, I have not.
All right, let's get going here. Top 50. Number 50, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Like, okay, just wait till we get into some of the 40s because you'll wonder why they're not in the top 10. It's hilarious. Number 49 is Hades. Really? Number 48 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Okay.
Number 47 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Number 48, League of Legends. Sorry, number 46. Number 45, Fortnite. Number 44, Elden Ring. How is this 44?
Yeah, like you would expect that at least towards the top tens
Yeah.
at the very worst, you know.
What are you doing?
Banter heard Elden Ring and he was like, "Are we playing Elden Ring?"
Yeah. All right, we'll get on your console. We'll play co-op. All right. Number 43, Celeste. 42 is Batman Arkham City. Number 41, Metroid Prime. Number 40, Chrono Trigger. 39 is God of War. 38 is Shadow of the Colossus.
What? I'll be honest, Jeff. What? Just give me. I just need to hear this top 10. Just let's skip to the top 10 because this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no, trust me. Like, I'll just go through the titles here. All right. So 37, Pokemon Gold and Silver. 36, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. 35 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Then Hollow Knight. Then NBA 2K11 at 33. How is that ahead of Elden Ring?
I mean, don't get me wrong. That's probably the best NBA game ever released.
Yeah.
For many people, but this shouldn't be anywhere near even the top 50 games of all time.
32, Miss Pac-Man. 31, Counter-Strike. 30, Wii Sports. 29, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. Number 28 is Minecraft. 27, Resident Evil 4, the original release. Mass Effect 2, Stardew Valley, The Sims, the original. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, 2007. Fallout 3, 2008. Mario Kart 64, Baldur's Gate 3 at number 19. Then we have Madden NFL 2004 at 18. Diablo 2 is 17. Red Dead Redemption 2 is 16.
What's with these random sports games just thrown in?
I don't know. Right. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt at 15. Street Fighter 2 at 14. Doom at 13. World of Warcraft 12. Halo Combat Evolved at 11. So here is our top 10. Super Metroid. Number 9, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 7 at number 8. Metal Gear Solid at number 7. Half-Life 2 at number 6. The Last of Us at number 5. Super Mario World at number 4. Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 3. Tetris at number 2. And Breath of the Wild at number 1. There is not one single 3D Mario title on this list.
That's crazy.
Like, why is Mario 64? I don't like it, but why is Mario 64 on there instead of not on there instead of like Madden? Why is Elden Ring in fucking 40?
What I don't get about this list as well is some of these choices, while maybe contentious, still make sense, right? Like, I can imagine some people having Last of Us at number 5 on their all-time list. I can get, like, I can understand that. It wouldn't be... I really like Last of Us.
Elden Ring was a cultural phenomenon, and they're talking about this list as part of being things like define gaming. Elden Ring is the only game within that genre that has attracted an audience that cared nothing for it.
Yeah, there are people that played Elden Ring that will never play another Souls-like unless it's Elden Ring something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is one of the most bullshit lists I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird, but also the thing is, lists are lists. They don't really mean anything. Especially
Rolling Stone. I don't think video games when I think Rolling Stones.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So this is a weird one, but I'm glad that we spoke about it.
It's a fucked up list.
Now, let's get to our actual main topic of the show today, shall we? And go for our big 2025 preview, because I don't know if you're aware, Jeff, but there's lots of really big video games coming out in 2025.
And it's
And
2025.
yeah, we're now in 2025. I feel like there's a year's worth of video games just coming out within the next month or so. So why don't we talk about kind of some of the biggest games? We can obviously
Yeah.
dive deeper on some of them if we want to as we go through, but what do we have coming up in 2025?
Yeah, so coming up right away here in a couple days, we'll be talking about it a little bit more later, and that's Hyper Life Breaker. This is the sequel to Hyper Life Drifter, taking a kind of a 3D approach to kind of what they did before. That one should be fairly decent. It's coming in at early access, so the final release
Yes.
will be a little
It's,
bit later.
it's coming in at the time of you seeing this episode. It will be like a day, maybe 2 days away. I did get a chance to preview it, but I will talk about that a bit later on when we get to what we've been playing towards the end of the episode.
We've got Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which has been kind of long awaited. That's going to be coming to the Switch there as well. We're also going to have Dynasty Warriors Origins, which is kind of a return to that franchise that kind of hasn't had a new game in a little while. So that one should be fairly decent. We're also going to have, let's see here, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming to PC on January 23rd. We've also got, let's take a look here, Sniper Elite Resistance, which is the next in the Sniper Elite series. And honestly, the last one wasn't really that far away. You're muted.
And I was fortunate enough to preview that one as well. I wrote a preview up on the site. I would imagine that if we can, both of us will try and get hold of that, because it is actually playable fully in co-op, and we will try and review that together if we can, possibly. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so we're heading into February here. So we got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is going to be a fairly big title. I didn't get on with the first title at all. I think it's too hands off for me in regards to how kind of it handles some stuff. So it wasn't a game that I really cared for.
It is kind of like a very deep simulation based RPG.
Yeah.
But for people that want that kind of game, and especially because it's based during a real historical period,
Yeah.
if you want that rather than these fantasy based RPGs, then Kingdom Come is probably one of the better ones that you're going to get. And the second game has received some early sort of preview / reviews in progress earlier this week, and it sounds fairly promising. So that's going to be a sizable release, I think, for a studio of that size. At least it's going to be quite a sizable release.
Next big one for me is Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2. This one's coming pretty soon after the first one. We've also got Avowed, which is going to be hitting February 18th. That's going to be a big title for Microsoft. Then we got Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, Tape 1, which I think is like the next Don't Nod game. That one should do, I think, fairly okay, although the fact that Life is Strange didn't really hit, it could be that it's just hitting a demographic that's probably not interested in really like being there for the game.
True.
But I should be taking a look at that one. Monster Hunter Wilds. This is one of the biggest releases this year. This is a game that is definitely going to be nominated for Game of the Year. Like it's going to be massive with what they've showed.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just pause there for a second, because I do want to talk a little bit more about February, and also give people a bit of an idea of what coverage we'll have coming up as well. Because there are many video games. I fully expect that, Jeff, you'll be picking up Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah.
So Jeff will be covering that one for us. A couple of these games I'm actually down to cover for the Outer Haven, so I am down to cover Avowed for the Outer Haven, and also Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. So I should be covering both of those over there. However, as we mentioned before, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is coming out early in February, and if I can pick that up, if I'm able to, I will also plan to cover that, and I'll cover that for us on Analog Stick Gaming.
Cool.
Because, yeah, we're a two-person outlet, as we've mentioned before, and these times are very, very busy. But I feel like this year isn't going to slow down, Jeff, because we have even more video games coming out. So, what does March bring us?
Fragpunk is going to be hitting March 6th. I'm excited to try that. We've also got Split Fiction, which is the kind of follow up to
I
Dark Souls
can't
2.
wait to play that. Can't
So
wait
that
to
one should
play
be
that.
fairly decent.
I'm hoping that we can get that one for review because that'll be quite nice to play together and
For
review
sure.
that.
Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster is going to be coming out as well too. We've got Assassin's Creed Shadow hitting March 20th. Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 2 is going to be hitting as well too.
Nice.
We've also got let's see, the first Berserker Kazan, which is
This is kind of a long awaited game, right?
yeah, and I can match myself up to oh, hold on, almost got it there. Yeah, but, yeah. Either ways, that one looks extremely good. I think the art design just looks absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
remember that one weird trailer they did though where it was a cinematic trailer and it didn't match the art design
Yeah,
at all?
that was just weird. Like it's not even a tone piece. I mean, at least the Redfall tone piece kind of like looked like Redfall.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
but yeah, but I mean that's pretty much March. I mean, in terms of some of the bigger stuff, because there's a bunch of like like 2 Point Museum and Wander Stop and the new Atelier game and stuff. Um, April looks a little light right now, except for you got like Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, which is the long-awaited
Yeah.
kind of SNK sequel.
Like I said, if I
Um,
was to make a guess, I would imagine that South of Midnight is probably late March or early April.
yeah, and I mean
But
the
that is
Switch
just
2
a
is rumored
guess.
to come out in April as well,
Yeah.
based on kind of when Genki was said that they were shipping the
Here's a
pieces.
question for you, Jeff,
Yeah,
on the Switch 2, while we're on that subject. Do you think that we're going to get a new Mario Kart game finally?
not at launch.
Interesting. Interesting.
Definitely not at launch.
So
Because I mean,
so launch lineup wise, if you were to guess, a couple of games
the
that
new
they might
3D
have.
the new 3D Mario that team's been working on, I think will
Okay.
hit.
What
Um,
about what about Metroid Prime 4?
I don't think it'll hit launch. I think cause, like I think Retro just needs more time on it.
Fair,
But
fair. Interesting. I'll be interested to see what they bring, and if that console is coming out in April, then I would imagine that some games will try and avoid April.
yeah, right now it's kind of a blank slate. But I mean, October is Double Dragon Revive, which I'm interested in checking out. And then the to be announced, we got 2XKO, which is the League of Legends fighting game.
Yes,
Um, then we've also got, let's see here, Borderlands 4. Again, that's going to be pretty big because I think Borderlands still has some. I think still has some hype even despite the movie.
it does. Yeah, it does for sure.
Um,
And you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they've kind of evolved that franchise.
yeah, especially with like the writing, because the writing in the last game was awful. The villain wasn't terribly great, so I think they just need to kind of do something big.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
We've also got the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which brings a lot of the 3D fighting games. It's kind of like the first collection that's going to be composed of a lot of 3D stuff. They mostly have just been doing 2D. Then we got Claire Obscure Expedition 33 as well too. Let's see here. We've got Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. That's going to be launching on PS5.
Nice.
What else do we got here? Doom: The Dark Ages.
I would imagine if I was to guess for that one, I do think that will be out by the end of May. just historically, if we look at what they've done with the last two Doom releases, one was in May and one was in March. And although we've only seen an initial trailer for that game,
Yeah,
that trailer looked like the game might be ready already. Like,
could be.
yeah. So, gonna be
Let's
interested
see
to
here.
see that one.
Dragonkin the Banished looks really, really good. I definitely want to
Mhm.
check that out when it hits on consoles. Elden Ring Night Rain as well. You can sign up for the beta test right now for
Yes.
on PlayStation and Xbox.
And that is actually a co-op game.
Yeah, we'll see if you have to use a curled finger or some other bullshit. Fable, that's going to be a big one for them as well too. I guess they're doing a Fighting Force collection. That's fucking awesome. Let's see here. We've also got Ghosts of Yotei, so that should be fairly big for Sony. It's the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
Greedfall 2, The Dying World. That should be fairly decent for spiders, even though I don't like that they're going kind of like old school traditional BioWare for the combat as opposed to the hack and
Yes.
slash stuff. So New World has been satisfying that for me. Indiana Jones: The Great Circle coming to PS5. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando looked really decent based off the trailer. Judas as well too. It's the next one from
Yes.
the BioShock creator. Killing Floor 3. We got Little Nightmares 3, but Little Nightmares 3 is not done by the same developer as the first two.
Yes.
So we'll have to see on that one. I guess they're doing Lost in Random, The Eternal Die. So it's a sequel to Lost in Random.
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't even know that that game did well enough to get a sequel, but there we are. Mecha Break looks pretty decent, although that other mech game kind of where you can play as like transforming robot animals into
Yeah.
things, I think will steal its lunch.
Probably.
Um,
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, that should be pretty decent. That Mio Memories in Orbit is I think like a Metroidvania that looks like artistically very, very interesting.
Interesting. Okay. I haven't actually heard of that one. So.
You've seen the trailer. You're just not linking the word the title together. It's like a little like ball thing, and then it can like
Oh
latch
yes,
on
I
to
have
different
seen
things.
it actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen it. Yes.
What do we got here? La 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 la. We got a bunch of stuff here. Let's see.
There is a big one that I want to talk about because I would imagine
Yeah,
it's
Pokemon
earlier in the
Legends
year,
CA.
and we also have Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is coming at some point. It was meant to come late last year, but obviously it suffered some sort of delay, but they never publicly announced it. I would assume that's just because they never actually gave a definitive date.
Yeah.
So, but I would, based on the fact that it was originally planned for late last year, I'd expect it within the first 6 months of this year, really. And I would hope to be covering that one for us. And I'm going to try my hardest to try and get review code for it if I can. But if I can't, I'll just pick it up because the game that it is remaking, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, is one of my favorite games of all time. As is listed in my Open Critic profile,
Mhm.
it's actually one of my favorite games of all time. So I feel like that's a good one for me to cover for us this year. So
Alrighty. Replaced finally coming out after a bunch of delays.
can't wait for that.
Yeah, Revenge of the Savage Planet. I mean, the first one was really good. Just love to
Again, though,
see how this one
that's
goes.
a game that I'm surprised actually did well enough to
Yeah.
get a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it had Game Pass money as well too, so maybe that contributed to it as well.
True.
What do we got here? Let's see here. I know a lot of people are looking forward to Skate Story. And we've got Spray Paint Simulator. All right, cool. Let's see here. A whole bunch of just a lot of like stuff that is not really known here. So we got the House of Dead 2 remake coming to PlayStation,
Nice.
Xbox, and Switch.
Nice.
The Legend of Babu looked actually pretty interesting. It's like a character platformer kind of adventure game. We got the Legends of Heroes: Trails in the Sky, the first, which is a remake of the first Trails in the Sky game. So there'll be 3 of those eventually coming out.
Nice.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, after it's been completely started over from scratch with the new
I
developer.
feel like that video game's never going to come out. Maybe I'm crazy, but
Yeah, I mean the Blood Hunt got delisted, like it got shut down, and that was actually pretty fun. I really enjoyed it, but
yeah,
yeah, not too many
yeah.
people played it, I
So,
think.
so Jeff, we're obviously getting more into the big unknowns here, but of the known things, and of course, there's a big chance. Well, there's probably around a 50-50 chance that GTA 6 comes out this year. I know
Yeah,
that Take Two have said on their investor call or something that they won't know until May whether they need to delay it out of this year or not.
hmm
So by May they will have a strong enough indication to know, which, suggests to me that by May we should hear something on the game. But what I was going to ask you is, with all of the games that we are aware that are at least scheduled for this year, assuming that they all come out, what are sort of 3 games that you're most looking forward to?
well, Monster Hunter Wilds for sure, to kind of get back into that, just because that is a game that you need to kind of set your wavelength to,
Yes.
just because of kind of like how it plays. Like there's kind of like a slow rhythm to it. So I definitely want to get into that. That one's huge. Doom: The Dark Ages as well too, as long as they kind of like chill on the platforming elements. Um, I think will
Yeah.
be a title that I'm really looking forward to. And Trails Through Daybreak too, just because I thought the first one set up some interesting stuff with a whole new cast of characters, and
Nice.
seeing probably more connections to the the Trails series, just because like some characters did show up and I was super appreciative of. I just wanted the story to kind of be a little more impactful to the cast, and that the next one looking like it should be. So I'll be reaching out for code for that one.
Yeah.
I should actually do that today. But
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, like those are some of my big ones. Borderlands 4 as well too. Like pretty much everything that you're seeing here on our background is stuff that I'm super pumped for.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
but yeah,
For me, there's a few things, and some you might expect, some you don't. If Fable comes this year, if it definitely makes this year, that's one I'm really looking forward to, just because I'm keen to see what Playground Games can do away from a racing video game. And,
yeah,
there have been some reports that they are also looking at maybe releasing a Forza Horizon 6 this year, because they obviously
yeah.
have the two separate dev teams now.
So
So,
right here is the
yeah.
Fable 3 Collector's Edition book.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I got that guy right there.
Nice. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Fable. Obviously, we see that this one is based very much in British humor, and me as a British person can very much appreciate that.
What? I thought you were from New Jersey.
So I am excited to see what that game can bring. Although, out of all of the Xbox titles for this year, I actually think that that's the most likely one to slip into next year.
Could
And I think it could be an avowed sort of situation where the game is probably going to be ready, but I can imagine them moving it just for
oh
scheduling reasons.
damn! I want a new Forza Horizon like so bad.
Well, it's rumored very strongly for this year, very very
Yeah,
strongly. So
I'm just wondering where the location would be.
maybe that's that surprise location, brand new game, Jeff, and they're actually going to go to Japan.
Yeah, because like they teased it with like or no,
The
that was
crew,
the
that
crew.
was yeah,
That was
yeah,
the crew game that kind of did the Japan racing and stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, the only issue with Japan is Japan's big on drifting,
Yes,
and that's not something that I particularly love in
I
racing games.
agree. I agree.
Like even the last Need for Speed and stuff, and the crew stuff, like the drifting stuff was the stuff that I put off until the end until I needed to do it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, there are a couple of other things I'm looking forward to that we haven't really mentioned here.
Yeah,
Mafia: The Old Country.
yeah,
I'm quite interested to see what that can do because I've always liked Mafia's more serious and even more story focused kind of version of what a GTA game is. And seeing a completely different setting in a different country for that franchise, in a country that is where the mafia, as we think of it, was essentially born. It's going to be really interesting to see those kind of early days and what sort of interesting story they can
oh
tell
yeah.
in there. But I go on.
We've also got Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition
Oh
coming out
yes,
on
I
March
forgot that got
20th.
announced. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a different website for a different list.
Nice,
Hitman
nice.
World of Assassination coming to PSVR 2.
Yeah. That game recently hit 75 million players.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to IO.
Let's see here. So we've got some big 33 Immortals. That's another one that should do pretty okay. Um, let's
I would
see here.
expect
Oh,
I would
Chained Echoes,
ex
Ashes of the Elrant DLC. Fuck yes. I'm so excited for that. I'll be getting, should be getting code, and I'll be covering that 100%.
Nice.
Crimson Desert as well looks fucking
Crimson
awesome.
Desert. Yeah, Crimson Desert looks great. I can't
Dave the
wait for
Diver's
that.
getting DLC. Um,
There's so much and there's so much unknown right now, right? It's like from a PlayStation perspective, if we look at PlayStation, they have Ghost of Yotei, which is coming out, which I'm supposed to be covering for the Outer Haven. But I would imagine that they're gonna have more than that as well, because they're not gonna. Surely they're not gonna have another year where they only have one or two games. I would have thought they need to. It's getting to the point where they need to step things up a little bit, and I just wonder what else they might have.
we've also got Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, which is the Amy Hennig game.
I hope that
Um,
actually comes out because she has some very bad luck with video
she
games.
hasn't shipped a game since Uncharted 3.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, technically, she had a game come out this year, and that was Soul Reaver 1 and 2, but that was without her involvement because obviously she just wrote it.
Yes.
Um, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound by the Blasphemous creators, I believe. So that should be really, really good. Let's see, what do we got here? I think Rematch, you got basically more tennis there.
So if you were
Slay
to
the Spire
guess,
2, South
nice.
of
If
Midnight, Splitgate 2,
yeah,
Stellar Blade on PC.
yeah. If you were to guess right now, and this is just like for fun, doesn't really mean anything,
Yeah.
but if you were to guess right now, based on the games that are expected to come out, who do you think will be the six nominees for Game of the Year this year?
I think Doom the Dark Ages and Monster Hunter Wilds are probably a lock. I think Split Fiction, based on kind of what it's done, might show up there as well. Um, I'm also interested for Wu Chang Fallen Feathers and WWE 2K25 of what's
Yes,
left on this
definitely.
list.
And
So
Wu
those would
Chang
be
is a game that I can definitely get us for coverage purposes. So
hells yeah. Um, let's see here for Game of the Year stuff. Um,
there's a
I
lot
mean,
of big boys this year, so I think it's hard
like
to.
Avowed could show up there.
What about Outer
Um,
Worlds 2?
no, I don't think that's a Game of the Year contender at all.
Okay.
Assassin's Creed Shadows, maybe, depending on how it kind of hits with everybody. Um, let's see here. What else do we got? I don't know for like, unless there's like some big stuff coming.
I would
Death
imagine
Stranding 2 on the beach,
Yeah,
Ghost of
Ghost of
Yotei.
Yotei and Death Stranding 2 almost feel like they're both shoe-ins because, what they're both sequels to
Grand Theft Auto
games that
6.
people loved. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 6 will definitely show up there. Maybe Hello Kitty Island Adventure. I don't know.
Hello.
Um, I mean, Marvel 1943, Mafia: The Old Country, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Metroid
There's
Prime
so
4.
many, right? There's so many, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like this year is crazy to the point where I wonder if games are going to move just because this year's so busy. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I do wonder. I really do wonder. Because right now we also know that a lot of video games aren't sharing their dates because they're waiting on GTA, right? That's pretty much been confirmed that there are games that know when they want to come out and they're kind of ready to come out, but they're just not sharing a date because they want to wait on GTA. It's like one of the very strongly rumored and reported games that is supposed to maybe come out this year, but hasn't even been announced for this year as part of that problem is Gears of War E-Day. We
yeah,
like Tom Warren and Jez Corden have both said that game is supposed to come out this year, or that was at least originally the intention,
yeah,
and then literally like a week or two before the reveal of it, they decided to remove the 2025 date just in case they want to move it from 2025,
yeah.
essentially.
I mean, we still have no idea where like Everwild is. We still have no idea where Contraband is.
Yeah.
Contraband, we've only ever seen a, a trailer, like
Yeah,
with
yeah, like literally like a reveal of the game's existence is all we've seen, right? So
yeah. So
this is going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I think this year is looking very very bright. I'm excited to see which of these games kind of surprises us as well, because some of these games that we might not be expecting a lot from, there might be one or two that surprise us in there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like Judas, like if that actually comes out this year, that could be something very very special. It's going to be a very very interesting time. But for now, I think we should talk about what we've been playing, Jeff, and then finish off the episode. So I will go first because,
sure.
as I mentioned earlier, I did get the opportunity. I was invited to go and preview Hyper Light Breaker, which is, of course, the sequel to Hyper Light Drifter. But this is in a brand new perspective. It's a completely different style of game. It's an open world, third person, single player or co op, roguelike kind of game. It's very very interesting because it's it's the first open world roguelike that I can remember. Like I don't think there's been another open world roguelike before.
Yeah,
And having that as like a unique selling point is really cool, and then having co-op on top of that. Unfortunately, I was meant to be able to test co-op at the preview event, but they couldn't get it working due to some tech issues. So I only got to play in solo play. But what I really like is you can hover around, so you'll have so basically the way the game works is you choose one of the breakers, which are your playable characters, okay? And then at launch of early access, you'll have 3 of those available, but there's going to be up to 9 by the time we get to full release. There's actually going to be 9 breakers available. They all have their own stats and different things which mean they will play slightly differently, and you'll find the character that suits your playstyle and that kind of thing. And then you go around the open world to find these keys, which are called prisms, if I remember correctly. And these prisms will allow you to open up like boss fights against these characters called the Crowns, who are basically your main enemies in the game, right? But just getting these keys is hard enough as it is. Like, when I say this is a roguelike, it is, but it's also very, very hard. It's not quite Souls-like,
Well, I
but
mean, Hyper Light Drifter was a challenging game as well too, and I
yeah.
think translating that gameplay into 3D is going to be very interesting.
Because yeah, of course, and you can speak more to Drifter than I can because I don't have much. I know what Drifter is and I've seen it, but I don't have much experience with it. But in Breaker, you do have various sort of melee weapons, and you also have a gun as well. But you can run out of ammo, and refilling ammo is like something that's quite difficult to do. You know, resources are meant to be fairly hard to come across because I think they want to focus you on the melee gameplay
Yeah,
more. You will have health packs, so you can heal yourself with a tap of down on the D-pad. I was playing on controller, and you also have like these special abilities that you can use. So you have like a light and heavy attack, but you also have like a special ability. So one of them is you will press Y and it will basically summon a giant block and just drop it on the enemy. Like and you have to be able to position yourself right for it to do it because it's summoning in a certain area.
yeah,
But obviously if you hit it, it does massive damage. There are different enemy types as well. So I encountered quite a wide variety of enemy types in my time playing the game, from these kind of squidgy, almost jelly-looking things that jump around and jump at you, to these little healing crystals that sort of fly around and act almost like mages, where they give shields to the other enemy combatants around you. But yeah, and then artistically, the game is wonderful to look at. It has a really nice style. I think the way that they've kind of translated the art from the 2D, Drifter to being a 3D perspective, it feels very much like it's within the same world, but this is actually set hundreds of years before Drifter. That's my understanding. So this is actually a prequel rather than a sequel. And I did get to ask the developer. We had one of the developers there, Len White, who is leading technical artist on the game, and I asked about what were the challenges of kind of translating this 2D world to 3D in an art sense, and how did they go about it. And one thing that he told me was that this game originally wasn't actually a hyper light game, and the way that they approached it originally from the very sort of concept phase was, first of all, how do we make an open world roguelite? Because we haven't seen that before. We don't really have anything else to go off of. And so they based everything they were doing on, what do we need in a roguelite? How do we need, and then over time it became, okay, we can do this in the hyper light world. And then being able to translate those arts to 3D was actually quite easy, because the art styles are art styles, whether they're in 2D or 3D, essentially. And, you know, Jeff, your camera is gone, so hopefully you are still there. But if not, we will get you back in 1 second. I cannot see you right now, Jeff, but hopefully you can hear me. And yeah, so Hyperlight Breaker is very, very interesting. I will be receiving code for it, so I will cover it for us during early access. However, we will only have an early access review, so it won't be scored initially. Jeff is having a problem with his
Can you hear
camera
me?
right now. I can hear you, Jeff. We just can't see you right now.
Weird.
So Jeff is there. He's just a black screen. We apologize. But hopefully, yeah, he will sort that out. But yes, as I was saying, I will be getting a code for Hyperlight Breaker. Jeff is now back. We can see him again. Hopefully, I will also be getting Jeff a code for Hyperlight Breaker because this game runs very well on the Steam Deck, Jeff. You'll be pleased to
My
know.
frame rate.
They actually had at the preview event there were 4 PCs set up and 2 Steam Decks to play on.
Okay.
So considering they were actually purposely like, yeah, come and play it on a Steam Deck, I think they have focused on that as being a good way to play the game. And yeah, as I was mentioning before, it is launching on early access this week. So we will have some coverage of it. However, it won't be a scored review. We'll be using our early access review scoring system, which we are still kind of figuring out and tinkering with because we've only had a couple of early access reviews so far, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have one more of those coming up soon from either myself or Jeff, depending on what kind of coverage we can get of the game. Because, like I say, it is playable in co-op. So hopefully, if we do get 2 codes, we'll be able to get that working. And then, other than that, I haven't really played much. But Jeff, I know there's 2 things you have played. Hopefully, we can get you sorted so that you can actually talk about those. Because one of those that I've seen that you've played is a game that I've actually played before as well. So if you can hear me, Jeff, what have you played recently? And if you can't hear me, I'll tell people what it is and I'll talk about my experience with it. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, I can hear you and stuff. Yeah, I'm just having weird frame rate issues with my camera for some reason.
That's
Um,
okay.
but
You're still here. That's fine.
the recording error.
Yeah, we're still recording,
Yeah. Okay. Um,
and we can hear you fine. So you're fine.
okay. All right. So yeah, like there's a few things that I'm under embargo still, so I can't talk about those guys right now. But I just put out the review for Overrider, which is a beat 'em up roguelike. And basically, it is visually impressive. Like, I think the title kind of sucks because there's already a game called Overrider, there's a game called Override, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, like, so you basically play as this character. I think their name is like Muai, and she is this like kind of implanted cybernetic kind of person who's been kind of like reborn hundreds of years after her original body died. But what you find out very early on is that her consciousness is actually that of her brother who had died at the same time. So he's inside kind of like her body and kind of dealing with a bunch of stuff there. And you kind of go out and you beat up characters, you get to the boss, and then you move on with the story. But what's interesting about this, not only being a roguelike, is you actually hack the enemies that you're fighting. So if some type of like ninja approaches you, you can hack them, take over their body, and then they become the character that you fight, that you play as. And then you can like jump out of his body and then jump into another body. So it allows for a lot of variety, and each time you use those bodies, you can upgrade them as well too. There's a lot of upgrade stuff in terms of like getting materials to make things to essentially upgrade yourself. But you can also you also work at a clinic in between all the levels, and you can actually perform procedures for clients that earn you cash, and then that cash you can use to better equip the clinic or yourself and upgrade those stats. This game feels extremely good to play, and it's like visually, it's absolutely fantastic. I love what this game looks like. Just going to try and bring up a screenshot here. And yeah, like it's super fun. It runs extremely good on the Steam Deck. Um, like it's such a neat looking game. The artwork is absolutely fantastic. I think that this game just looks just absolutely brilliant. Um, so yeah, like I don't know if you can see it here.
We actually still can't see you right now, Jeff, unfortunately.
You
But
can't see me. My
no,
camera
no,
shows that I'm on.
yeah, we can't see you right now, unfortunately. You
Oh
are a
crap.
black screen for us.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, yeah, because like I'm seeing myself just fine here. Let me stop my camera and then I'll start it again. See if it's popped up here. Because yeah, it says like there's a recording error, but it doesn't tell me what it
Very
is.
strange, very strange.
But yeah, like
We can still
Overrider.
hear you though. We can
Okay,
still hear you.
all right. Yeah, like Overrider is just it's great. Like honestly, check this game out. It's very hard to search for. Like if you type Overrider in YouTube, you're not going to find this game.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, the SEO on this game is bad. The translation's also really bad too. There's a lot of spelling errors, grammar errors, all sorts of stuff.
That's a
Um,
shame.
but no, like it's pretty cheap as well too. It's in early access, but yeah, if you're looking for like a good beat 'em up, this game is definitely one that you want to check out.
Nice.
Um, but I've been spending a lot of time, more so than I should be, because I've got a bunch of other games that I need to get out and review. But I've been playing Rise of Ronin. This was on my list of games that I never got to play. I'm pretty far in this game. I think I'm in the last area. Um, if I had to lodge a complaint against this game, is that it's too long. It is way too long of a game.
I've played
I,
some of this game, but I never finished it. However, what I would say is I really enjoyed what I played. So, what are you thinking of it so far?
yeah, this is basically if like the team behind Ninja Gaiden, which they are, it's Team Ninja, made their own Ghost of Tsushima, but had it play like Ninja Gaiden. And that's essentially what this is. And like you can romance characters, you can craft all sorts of stuff. There's tons of loot to get, tons of looks and different things. There's a horse, there's a glider as well too, so you can glide around and level that up as well. There's tons of characters to kind of create bonds with, and then those bonds unlock certain traits that are kind of relative to them, like more healing. So like I romanced the doctor lady, and what's neat is like you create two characters at the start, male or female, doesn't matter, because the kids are young enough that they can kind of grow up to be whatever. And you create so I created two sisters, and at the end of like the first act, your other sister is kind of like left for dead on a mission that's kind of botched, and then you encounter her later on in kind of ways that you'll kind of see coming. But what's neat about this game is that you can swap from faction to faction, so you can flip flop all sorts of stuff. And like I was trying to go anti shogunate, and then I went shogunate, and then I did a mission that was supposed to be shogunate, but then it ended up converting me back into anti shogunate. So now I'm going against them again. But
That's
you also
funny.
you have a character who's kind of with you through all of it, and that's Ryomo, and he's kind of someone who agrees kind of wherever you're going on the path. But it allows this game to have a lot of replay in regards to the sides that you pick. And
Funny
for
thing is,
me,
though, he is obviously a real person.
yeah, and yeah, like a lot of these characters are kind of based off like real people. I mean, obviously, the Matthew Perry is not the Matthew Perry from Friends. He's the Matthew Perry who had, sailed aboard a ship, billions of years ago. Um,
Yes.
and no, like it's such a good game. I don't know if I would ever replay it in terms of like the replayability, because again, this game is so freaking long. Like I don't know how long I've been playing this game, probably like 60 or 70 hours. And I'm in like the third area, and I'm hoping Kyoto is the last area. It seems more condensed than the previous ones, but there's tons of side quests, there's tons of missions, there's tons of picture opportunities, there's tons of like shrines to get like skill points and things. There's a whole like skill system based off like strength and intellect and dexterity and all that kind of stuff. Um, your character does have a voice. They talk occasionally, not that often. There's like bandit camps to kind of do like, so like this is like your standard open world game, but it feels like if, and this is going to sound weird, if Ghost of Tsushima was a video game, like it's like a video game. Like
Fair.
it doesn't play like some cinematic masterpiece and stuff like that. Like the presentation that Ghost of Tsushima is looking for. This plays like, again, if the Ninja Gaiden games turned into an open world Breath of the Wild type of Ghost of Tsushima game, and that I absolutely love. Like this game is so freaking good. It definitely would have made my top 10.
Yeah. And
Um,
there is actually co-op in this game as well. So
Yeah, I don't have PlayStation Network. I don't have PSN, so like I can't test out the co-op or anything like that, and I'm not gonna spend the money just to play co-op.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but no, like the game is incredibly fun. The combat's really good. There's tons of weapons. There's tons of weapons that I didn't think that were going to be that great to use, and I'm using them and loving them. Yeah, it's such a great game to play. It feels really nice to do. The combat's good. It's got kind of this like block, but almost like this like parry type of thing where like you just parry their attacks, then eventually it weakens them, and then you can perform like a killing attack. You can use guns or pistols or bow and arrow, and then like just headshot enemies and kill them instantly. There's horse and horse armor. You can like level up bonds with characters to get different glider patterns and stuff like that.
And you don't have to pay for the horse armor either.
Well, I mean, in-game currency, you have to buy it at one of the shops.
Yeah.
Um, but no, like this game was totally slept on. No one was talking about it at the end of the year. I think this game just did not do well. It was only on PS5, which is unfortunate. Um, so I honestly like I can't
Yeah.
imagine that this game sold well.
That the exclusivity definitely hurt this game because I think that if it was on all platforms, if it was on PC and Xbox as well, it would have done much better. And
So apparently, it's
yeah.
their fastest selling game,
Oh, wow.
and basically is sold. Let's see here. May not be talked about, but let's see here. While we don't have exact sales figures for Rise of Ronin, the confirmation the company observed is a good indicator that the game is selling well above 1 million units by now and be on track to sell 2 million copies by the first anniversary comes around. Neo
Oh,
2 sold apparently 7 million copies. Oh, the
and that
Neo
was
series. The
okay.
series has sold 7 million
So
copies.
between the two games, they sold 7 million. Okay.
Yeah. So I'd be interesting to see what kind of the sales figures of this and whether or not this game's going to come to PC and Xbox later on. Like it might just be a timed exclusive. But then Neo and Neo 1 or Neo and Neo 2, I don't think came to Xbox.
Yeah, they
Um,
they didn't, but I'm not sure if they ever came to PC because PC would certainly help this game a lot. I think.
yeah, and I mean, like it's a good looking game. There's some pop up and stuff like that, but the draw distance you get with the glider is great. Things aren't just necessarily popping. You can go on buildings. You got like a little hook that gets you up on little certain areas and stuff. I do kind of wish you could jump off the horse to use that as well, or jump off the horse to use the glider too. But no, you can fast travel between like these like little things and stuff, and it's basically like a Souls like where if you use it, the enemies respawn and all that kind of stuff. But no, this game's great, absolutely great. I'm borrowing it right now, so if I can get it
Yeah.
cheap later on to have to my collection, I will, because this game is
Nice.
absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
Um, Other than that, I've been playing a whole lot of Marvel Rivals. I kind of talked about it originally
Yes.
earlier in the episode,
Well,
but
hopefully we will play more of that tonight because I do want to test out this new GPU, and I feel like that would be a good game to do it. So,
yeah, no, it's good. Like I've been bought a couple things on sale on the Xbox store. Bought what is it? Aura Crew, the last Aura Crew, which is kind of like a very like Eurojank kind of like action RPG.
oh, okay,
So I've been
interesting,
playing that
interesting.
and kind of liking that. Um, but yeah, there's just a couple things that I just can't talk about right now. I'm just playing kind of like a
Yeah,
remastered horror collection, which I'll be talking about in a little while. I've also got
nice.
the review coming out today, hopefully for Hollow Body.
Nice, nice.
This is like a tribute to like the Silent Hill kind of era of like Silent Hill 2 and stuff. I mean, even when you save, it goes to red screen, just like Silent Hill 2. But
Nice.
basically, you play a character. I think her name's Mia, and then or Mika or whatever, and then she basically uses her hover car to fly across the exclusion zone because apparently this town in Britain, probably your town, I don't know, it got completely like nuked because of some type of like biological disaster or something like that. And then basically your hover.
To be fair, that very much could happen here because we're having a nuclear power plant built like 50 miles away from where I live. So
I probably ransacked your house in the game. I have no idea. But no, like it plays like when it originally released, it was fixed cameras, tank controls, modern controls, but it was fixed cameras. This update was why I ended up playing it. It added a third person camera, so it plays more like Silent Hill 2 now, and it's definitely more playable. The game is fairly short; it's only about 4 to 5 hours. My biggest complaint is a lot of it doesn't have a lot of standout moments in terms of like different areas. Like the apartment area looks exactly the same. Every room you go into is almost exactly the same. You go into the houses in the street, they're almost exactly the same. There's a lot of areas where you walk to the edge of a park and you're like, oh, you need this, go to this house. And you walk all the way back, get it, and then you walk all the way back and unlock it and then go into the sewers. And like it just doesn't have enough unique moments to kind of push it along, but it's still interesting. The sci-fi angle of it is only at the beginning with your hover car crashing and then just completely ignores the sci-fi element of it. But she's trying to find her partner, Sasha, who, when you play at the very beginning, she goes into a cave and finds some weird thing and then apparently dies. I don't know. But you kind of figure out everything that kind of happens there as it goes on, and it's got voice acting. Like the game is fun. Like it is super fun. It's those types of games where you see a lot of like YouTubers and Twitch streamers that are playing it because it's a fun horror game. It kind of has that appeal. It's fairly cheap as well, but man, that third person camera is so nice for the difference of what it kind of launched with.
yeah, I bet it makes the game play very differently. So I
Yeah,
can
like
imagine it's nice.
and they probably had to go in through and redo some of the graphics because like if you have a fixed camera, you can have like no texture on a wall that you're not seeing, right?
Yeah, you can hide certain things,
Yeah,
right? Whereas when you've
but
got a different camera, you can not
yeah,
do that.
it's good. It's got a bunch of melee weapons. Like I'm not using the gun that much because there's not really a reticle, so it's a little harder to shoot. But I don't know the differences between like is a guitar better than the street sign? Like there's no like damage indicators and stuff like that.
Fair,
Um,
fair.
but no, it's pretty decent. If you're looking for like a Silent Hill 2 old classic thing, if you liked Tormented Souls, you'll like Hollow Body. And again, it's a short experience. You can probably beat it. You can beat it in a day. Um, but no, that's been actually really really good,
Good,
despite my issues with it.
good.
But other than that, yeah, I've got two games I'll be talking about probably next. Well, I'll be talking about one of them next week, and then 2 weeks from now I'll be talking about another one because I got it super early.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
that
Well,
game's
I'm hoping to. Well, I'll be talking about more Hyper Light Breaker next week, I would imagine. And there might even be something else that I'm able to talk about next week as well. But that depends on. I'm kind of waiting for certain things to be organised. So whether it happens or not is still up in the air at the moment. But yeah, I could have some very interesting things to talk about next week as well. But we will wait and see, and you should subscribe to find out if that happens because we need your support here. We know that many of you go to the website and read our news and read our reviews, and we very much appreciate that. But if you watch this podcast and you are not subscribed, please subscribe because it will only help us to bring more and better content to
yeah,
you.
and we only update like 3 to 4 times a month, so we're not going to be flooding your stream with like YouTube stories or shorts or whatever, and like
Yeah.
tons of extra little things. We're not posting like tons of
we
trailers and stuff.
we we endeavor to do one episode a week, when we are able to. There are sometimes situations where we miss a week here or there, but you're going to get at most sort of 50 to 60 episodes a year from us on the YouTube channel. But this is where we will talk about certain things that you might not see us write up on the website. You know, like how I was playing Death Stranding recently on Xbox because it came to Xbox, right? I didn't have time to play enough of it to then do a write up on the website, and we obviously already have our original review there. But this is where you will get those kind of discussions where we maybe are revisiting something like Rise of Ronin for Jeff, having not played it before, or when I eventually get to Stellar Blade, I'll talk about that here as well. So if you enjoy the conversation around video games and you enjoy what we do, we'd really appreciate you subscribing and also commenting if you've got a topic you'd like us to talk about. If you know, we can integrate all of that stuff. If somebody wants us to do our top 10 games of all time, that's something that we can plan for and do. It would take us time to do it, but unless you comment and tell us, we cannot, you know, there's only so much we can do. And if you'd like us to be less news focused, we're open to that as well. We want this show to be what people want it to be. So please subscribe, like, and engage with us and let us know what you'd like us to do. We obviously are on Blue Sky as well, so make sure you follow us on Blue Sky. We are still on Twitter, but everyone is kind of slowly moving away from Twitter. So yeah, please make sure that you are there for when, you know, we will always post the new episodes as soon as we can after they go up on Blue Sky and on Twitter. Jeff handles that. Hopefully next time Jeff's camera will be working again. We apologize about that issue.
For me, I don't know what's going on. It's live for me. If you want to ask Banter a question, by all means, comment below. He will do
definitely
his best to answer. He's playing Elden Ring right now. Oh, he's fighting the fire giant.
Nice.
He just killed him.
But until next time, it's a goodbye from me while Jeff is in the void, and we will see you next week.
I'm waving.
Goodbye.
With both hands.